Since the inception of the genre, pictures have played an integral part of the creepypasta experience. As mentioned in the previous video, Ted the Caver was arguably the first internet horror story that used pictures to bolster the effects of the prose. At the same time, the pictures without the story weren't scary, but were retroactively given a more creepy, sinister vibe when put alongside the seemingly supernatural experiences of the Cavers. A great many creepypastas are known as much for the pictures that accompany them as they are the stories themselves. Slender Man, for example, is arguably the most famous creepypasta of all time, and it didn't begin as a story at all. It began as a picture that was submitted for a contest on the website somethingawful.com. Whereas Ted the Caver used already existing pictures to accompany the story, Slender Man's history begins with a picture, from which countless stories have emerged. Slender Man came to be when somethingawful.com hosted a Photoshop contest, wherein they challenged users to take an ordinary photo and make it scary. Eric Knudsen, under the username Victor Surge, took 2 pictures and added to them an eerily tall, faceless man wearing a black suit. Posted on June 8, 2009, each of the images was accompanied by a short blurb that related to the events being depicted. In the first black and white photo, an angry-looking child of maybe 11 years old takes up much of the foreground on the right side. Behind him, a line of children follow, seemingly unaware of the impossibly tall, lanky, brooding figure in the background. The caption reads, "We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them. But its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time." Attributed to 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead. The second picture, also black and white, depicts a playground, more specifically a slide, the ladder of which is being climbed by a young boy. In the background stands the same tall, pale, faceless figure with his long arms at his sides, only now, those arms are accompanied by a number of tentacles. This image is also accompanied by a caption, one of 2 recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. Attributed to 1986, photographer Mary Thomas, missing since June 13, 1986. Before long, more users began uploading their own pictures featuring the Slender Man, with Victor Surge himself adding more to the lore. Knudsen took inspiration from many earlier horror works in his creation of Slender Man, with those primarily being Zach Parsons' That Insidious Beast, Stephen King's The Mist, reports of Shadow People, Mothman, and the Mad Gasser of Mattoon. Other inspirations for the character were the Tall Man from the 1979 film Phantasm, H.P. Lovecraft, the work of William S. Burroughs, and some video games including Silent Hill and Resident Evil. His intention was to, quote, formulate something whose motivations can barely be comprehended, and which caused unease and terror in a general population. Other inspirations include demon characters from the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the Men in Black, and no, not Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, and The Question, a DC Comics superhero, whose alter ego is Victor Sage. In a fictional setting, Slender Man has many different origins, one such being a folkloric type story set in Germany that puts the character as having existed since the 16th century. But the most popular lore is that which was implemented by Troy Wagner with his found footage ARG project, Marble Hornets. Marble Hornets was a series of vignettes centered around the character Jay, who attempts to learn what happened during the filming of a student film bearing the same name as the series itself. There were 133 episodes of Marble Hornets in total, and in 2015 it was adapted into a proper film entitled Always Watching, a Marble Hornets story. The first Marble Hornets video was posted on June 20th, 2009. And while obviously taking a lot of inspiration from Slender Man, Wagner also drew upon psychological found footage horror films such as The Blair Witch Project, and went about presenting the story with the mindset that barely seeing the monster, and instead only seeing signs of its presence, was more effective. According to Wagner, the story was written in broad strokes before shooting began for each of the 3 seasons. For the specifics of each entry, they tried to stay 1 or 2 episodes ahead, and while it was intentionally a loosely organized production to allow for improvisation, there was always a structure being followed. During the filming of Always Watching, the feature film based on the web series that stars Alexandra Breckenridge, Wagner and the Marble Hornets crew were flown to the set in Los Angeles to watch their fictional world be expanded. In addition to the web series and the film, Troy Wagner is also currently adapting the story into a comic book. Be sure to check out Troy's other work at these links. Slender Man would eventually gain nationwide notoriety when two 12-year-old girls from Waukesha, Wisconsin, which coincidentally is about 15 minutes away from where I live, stabbed their friend 19 times and left her for dead. When asked for a reason for the attack, the girls claimed they were doing it to appease the Slender Man. The stabbings and their aftermath were explored in depth in the HBO documentary Beware the Slender Man, which released in 2016. Slender Man has gone on to become a staple in popular culture. Beyond the pictures and the stories that accompanied them, and beyond Marble Hornets, Slender Man has been depicted in the 2018 film of the same name, which is separate from Always Watching. He has also been depicted in numerous video games, and characters analogous to or parody of Slender Man have appeared from the video game Minecraft, to the TV show Supernatural, to the board game Kingdom Death, Monster, amongst many others. Though the character's popularity has waned in recent years due to the poorly received 2018 film, there is no denying the impact that Slender Man has had, whether through fictitious accounts of sightings of the gangly, tentacled entity, or the tragic, real-life circumstances that took him out of the underground creepypasta subculture and thrust him into the mainstream zeitgeist. The legacy of the Slender Man is one that will undoubtedly endure.